epic's a pretty commonplace, so I imagine a number of our staff are pretty epic savvy.
10 milligrams per
Nice.
ounce.
I saw some tarps and some trucks out there on the East Meadow, literally right across the street from my apartment building. All of you have come here from all over the country. Nobody's paying you to help us, me and my fellow New Yorkers, during our hour of deep, deep need. And I'm sorry, it's very emotional for me, but I was there pretty much 12 hours a day. So I've been over there pretty much every day since, and I'm pretty much the only volunteer who continues to go over there. After the first week or so, they pretty much shut down the hospital to any outside guests. More than a volunteer, New York's Good Samaritan, Whitney Tilson, they sort of made me a custom-made badge, which I'm very proud of. Every third day or so, I go to Costco, and I spend about $2,000 buying drinks, snacks, candies, yogurt. I want these doctors and nurses well-fed. It's funny, it's been sort of a mutual learning experience. These folks many of them have served in Mosul, Iraq. They were in Liberia treating Ebola patients. And now they've come to the Upper East Side of New York, which is its own strange and foreign world, I think, to evangelical Christians, mostly from the South. I had one guy come up to me at one point and say, you're the first liberal I ever met. And I laughed and I said, well, you're the first evangelical Christian I've ever met. And we had a good laugh, and we would have given each other a hug, except we're not allowed to. I and my fellow Upper East Siders are sort of your classic one percenters, Volvo driving, latte sipping libtards. I find I have an enormous amount in common with the folks from Samaritan's Purse, and they're just good people, right? And they have a mission to do good in the world and make the world a better place. Well, that is my mission in life as well, just not religiously motivated. This is Samaritan's Purse is a Christian evangelical organization founded by Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham. Franklin Graham has said some things that I find abhorrent about my gay and lesbian friends and family, many very close to me. But you know what? I'm going to set my ideology aside. I'm not going to have arguments with them over those beliefs. We can do that later. I probably will do that later with some of these people who are now I consider my brothers and sisters. Sorry. It is very emotional to me because, look, I'm not a religious person, but they are here doing God's work. And what motivates them is not proselytizing and this other nonsense I'm hearing is because they believe that God is telling them to go heal people and help people in distress and save lives. And that's what they're doing here. This is not some sham.
Now we're going to say 40.
These patients are very unstable. They're unlike a lot of the typical respiratory issues that we see in a normal hospital setting. We have several patients who are in their 20s and 30s, and several who don't have any comorbidities. So they were very healthy, very average, and quite sick with it. Initially, they come in very scared. They've just left a hospital setting and they're coming to a tent. I mean, they see us completely gowned up in suits and they can really only see our eyes. So far, it's been a very smooth transition every day of maybe 8 to 10 admissions, and then getting some discharges out when we can. We all practice underneath the same guideline of treating any and every single person who has a medical need. We are first and foremost healthcare workers. We love that Jesus is a part of our work. We love that we can openly share that with patients. But that's not something that we are forcing onto anyone. It makes it challenging that we cannot have family here at the bedside with them. I worked in Iraq with Samaritan's Purse, and that was a challenge there. Our treatment area there, we were not able to have family members come in, and we lost a lot of patients there. And that's been difficult for us as providers to be the ones that are chosen to be at their bedside in their last moments, whether like a priest or I guess an imam or whoever it would be that represents their faith. We're able to have either a representative or a phone call. I mean, we'll do the best that we can to keep that person safe and the patients wish is respected. We had a moment with a woman who is a Christian. She was asking for prayer from us. She was very scared. So we're all trying to do everything we can. And finally, one of our staff, Stephanie, was like, why aren't we praying? So they just started praying over her. And physically, the numbers on the machine were literally rising as they were praying. Like a saturation from like 60 up to 90 in the middle of praying. It was incredible for the patient to experience that. It was incredible for our staff and an encouragement of like, God is the center of this. And that is what makes this so unique and very different from working in a hospital building. We have the freedom to have those conversations with our patients. We're very respectful. If they don't want that, it's not something we're forcing on them. But we know that God is present. He's not left us in the suffering. And we use that to an advantage in order to bring him in and say, okay, God, like this is not on our strength, it's on yours. So it's great.
The police officers had to go chase down a protester. There were some protesters out there the other day, with signs saying, go home and so forth. And, I just sort of shook my head. And I just think it's very short-sighted, ideologically misguided, and extreme. I wish some of those protesters could go into the emergency room in that hospital and go talk to the patients who are on the verge of life and death and ask them, hey, do you want these people to go home or not?
They have no business being in New York City. They are the virus. No, but right here at the end. They are the virus. Get these racists out of New York. Yes, yes. The end of the world. It's the end of the world. I'm going to do a little symbolic walk across the park. It's public property. These are right-wing, hard-right, apocalyptic Christians. I'm going to go out here now. And I'm just going to walk across the park. Yeah. Amen. Here we go. And so, they're going to start shouting at me now. Well, and I'm going to plant this flag now. Get out of New York. We don't want your racism here. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. Get down the fucking ground. Fuck is wrong? We've got to have control over people that take advantage of our disasters, that take advantage of our sorrow. They are predators. They're right-wing apocalyptic Christians. We've got to get them out of New York City.
It was very controversial to go into that field. Honestly, we got a lot of pushback, even from people in our own community, because this paralysis occurs around crisis, and we become sentimental. We become extremely cautious. Our rule-following impulse is hardened, and we stop paying attention to some very basic things, like our values. We make a joke that Franklin Graham or Jimmy Swaggart, so like those are like Billy's reverse mentors.
Those of you who love to hate Donald Trump, I'm one of them. Amen.
It's heightened talk. Sling those vowels out there and then you stop. Form doesn't have to be confused with how it's abused by right-wing extremist apocalyptic Christians. I remember when 9/11 took place that Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell had a television show in which they described the towers as falling because we pulled them down.
Yeah. They blamed us.
and they blamed us because we're gays and lesbians, because we're sodomites, relativists, humanists. That's the modern world, humanism.
Yeah.
We make God mad. I really believe that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and the lesbians who are actively trying to make that an alternative lifestyle, the ACLU, People for the American Way, all of them who tried to secularize America, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen.
So they thought we deserved it. And I looked at Franklin Graham there in the East Meadow. Looks like that same thing.
Good morning. This is Franklin Graham in Central Park in New York. We have patients in this hospital, and some are struggling for every breath that they take. This is a very dangerous virus, and we felt it was appropriate to come to you today from Central Park.
When I think about the crisis we're in, I automatically thought about this song. There is strength within the sorrow.
A live, nationally broadcast Fox News show. That's what he did with those tents.
That's the essential business we need in New York City right now. A fundraising coup for Samaritans.
Yes. How many millions did he raise at that moment?
From the heart of Sodom and Gomorrah. You know what I'm saying? Is the priority healthcare? Is it really the priority of this group? And that's just a question we'll let float out there. But I always want to bring it back to the people who are truly vulnerable to this message. And that is queer youth, and I'm just constantly concerned for their well-being. They have the highest rate of suicide. They are the victims of violence. That's what this is really about. It's all this political stuff notwithstanding, let's get down to it. Central Park is our place. It's our magical
It's our
forest.
commons.
It's our commons. It's where we go. It's who we are. And okay, I admit that we is very inclusive in New York City. We includes some evangelical Christians. We includes homophobic people, okay? As people. That's not the same as an institution that carries those values. We have to make that distinction that this place is coming in with giant tents that have those words on it and, that are advertising themselves. And it's not the same as an individual who has those values, who's obviously welcome in the park, because we are a plurality here. We are diverse.
The help is not needed. Those 68 beds, we've got them. In fact, Cuomo's sending that big hospital ship back.
Now, just where these lines between faith and miraculous faith and science, coincide. Interesting tensions there, and ones that should be pursued in our understanding of Samaritan's Purse and their place in the world.
Is it good marketing for them and for their religion that they're out here helping us out and doing great work and saving lives? You bet it is. I will say, though, there have been a few difficult conversations with people who have just much stronger feelings about the LGBTQ issues, particularly. Part of the reason I recorded that other video that's gotten more than 10,000 views now is to speak to those people. Someday I hope to have conversations or two directly with Franklin Graham and maybe hopefully persuade him to change his rhetoric, because I don't think it's doing his organization any good and it's not doing the world any good. We're still a bitterly divided nation, sadly, but I'm a little more optimistic. I realize, from having conversations with people who I normally would not interact with and who I might have just sort of dismissed, we actually are 90+% the same.
There's no discrimination here or in the building. And I think that is maybe a misperception that we're not providing the same care, that we wouldn't accept certain patients in, and that is not the truth at all.